And we're live.
Hello, welcome everybody to the 24th episode
25th.
of.
We're number 25.
Okay, to the 25th episode of Hell in a Handbasket. So this is we have to say the date because things are going off at such an astonishing pace, like an astonishing.
It is June 23rd, 2025.
Yep.
Day after 2 days after the United States has bombed Iran's nuclear sites. So that is clearly the biggest topic of the week, and you don't hear about much else in the way of geopolitics this week besides this topic. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the big one. So, like always, people that have watched this show with any regularity know that oftentimes Nanya and I have a subject queued up, and we've been trying to freaking discuss Burkina Faso for like 2 episodes now, and things keep popping off, and of course we can't not discuss the big news, which is of course U.S. war in Iran, and so I mean this is like, okay, so I open mic DPA open mic was yesterday, and of course on DPA open mic this was the main topic of conversation, and it was really interesting to see how different people had kind of different like kind of hopes for what the next moves would be, but everybody basically agreed, oh, like we're basically more or less more likely going to be screwed. You weren't on yesterday's.
No, but I was clearly wrong. When we talked about this last week briefly, I figured the 2-week window was Trump's way of walking it back, and somewhat returning to the negotiating table, right? So wrong. So I misjudged that because I think 2 days after I said this, they start dropping bombs on nuclear reactors inside of Iran. So, I think that this is clearly a massive escalation. And, but with that said, I'm not so sure much will come of it. Iran seems to be responding today, hitting a bunch of empty bases with a handful of missiles. So to me, that strikes me as being more symbolic than anything else. And I think that they'll respond in kind to the various bases in Iraq and Qatar and Bahrain, and I think that'll be the end of it. But I was wrong before, so I could be wrong again. What do you think?
Okay, so I think that we've been wanting to go to war with Iran since forever. Donald Trump has been wanting to go to war with Iran since his first administration. Okay, so like, remember when I think I brought this up last podcast last week. Remember when Donald Trump accused Iran of staging the assassination attempt against him? Like then, that just didn't sit with me right. Like, he must know better than this, right? Obviously. Why is he saying this? And I think right already from there was going to be war with Iran. We were going to be involved. It's already, the decision has been made. Like, we are doing this thing. And I mean, so one of the things that we have planned for today is to go over. So everybody's heard of Which Path to Persia by now. It's like freaking everybody and their grandmother has heard of this paper now, policy paper, which supposedly outlines our approach to Iran. And, it's a really long, it's a freaking book. It's like a massive chapter book, right? So, I've been lazy, and I know I should have. I've always known I should check it out. So what I did is I started kind of skimming through Which Path to Persia, and I think we'll go through some of chapter 5 in Which Path to Persia to basically lay out why my thinking about why we are going to escalate. Like this is the goal all along. It's the plan, right? So okay. So first
Well,
things
yeah,
first.
I do
Go ahead.
think it's the plan, but I think that Trump has changed quite a bit in the last, like, let's say, month, even. Right? I have to believe that they got his mind right, and however they chose to get his mind right, they were successful in doing it because he's sort of waffling on Ukraine. He's decided now to bomb Iran. Um, so all the peacetime, peace loving presidential candidate Donald Trump, that's all out the window now. So, and he's rapidly shifted. So, uh, I got to believe that, whoever makes the real decisions there is taking them aside and say, listen, this is how it's going to be. And, get
No,
on
no, let
board.
me lay out my no, this is why I think you're wrong. Okay, so
Sure.
first thing I want to point out is one of the important things that's one of the most important developments today is that Iran is threatening to block off the Strait of Hormuz.
Mhm.
1/5 of the world's crude oil and 1/3 of all natural gas that gets transported by sea goes through the Strait of Hormuz. It's like 34 kilometers wide in
Sure.
some areas. So how does this relate to you? That means your gas prices are probably going to go way up. Probably energy prices are going to soar even in the U.S. So will we put troops on the ground? And will we escalate? And here's what I'm saying. I'm saying yes, because number one, right off the bat, Israel's stated objectives were what? The denuclearization of Iran, regime change, and then Donald Trump, I think, added surrender.
Mhm.
So we haven't been able to do any of those things. Like without being able to accomplish any of this stuff, we've lost the war, right? We've not been able to accomplish any of our stated objectives. So with that, we can't do it without boots on the ground. We have to somehow get some boots on the ground in order to be able to accomplish these stated objectives, so-called. And we haven't gotten off the escalator up until this point. Right now, it's easy to get off. That means we intend to escalate. This is the plan. And so
You
that's really what
honestly think that you're going to put boots on the ground in Iran?
I think so. I think they want to really bad. I think this is
Oh, I'm
what's going
sure
to
they
happen.
want to, but I don't think you have many boots, to be honest with you. So
They think they can
that's
do it
not a
with
good
the few
idea.
boosts they have. So okay,
Well,
let's go to
look, man.
which path to Persia, right? Let's see. What do I have some notes. I guess I'll share them on screen. Um, let's see here. Share, present. Here we go. All right. If you don't mind, could you please share that? Yeah, another thing, as of today, estimated over 1,360 casualties in Israel. Iran lobbed 500 more rockets into Israel. JD Vance emphasized that we're not going to war with Iran, but with Iran's nuclear program, which let me tell you, what the hell is that BS? What did Iran say? Iran said right off the bat, we're willing to not develop a nuke even right now. You technically would have gotten what you want, right? Iran is just giving you that. So why are you going to war with Iran? And my argument is because it's not about the nukes exactly. It is maybe about the nukes for Israel, but for America, not. I don't think not so much. To some
Well,
extent,
I don't think it's about nukes at all. I think it's about regime change, and they're using nukes as a means to change the
yes,
regime.
yes. So the Operation Midnight Hammer has been an airborne affair, but remember, JD Vance says that we're not planning on putting boots on the ground. But remember that we said all kinds of stuff about Ukraine, and Biden said that arming Ukraine with long-range weapons, that's a shooting war between U.S. and Russia. I forgot what it was. Something like a shooting war between the two countries would be a World War III. That he wouldn't send ATACMS, that they wouldn't send tanks, and eventually they ended up everything that they said they wouldn't do. Literally diametrically the opposite is what happened. They did it. So, okay, 125 U.S. aircraft were used in Operation Midnight Hammer, which I think is another important thing because they're showing you that we're going all in. we were doing this whole thing, right? B-2 bombers are like $2 billion aircraft. Okay. Which Path to Persia, chapter 5. So yeah, what I did is it's friggin' long, so I used AI to help summarize the thing. And basically, here's kind of what the thinking is that the Brookings Institute lays out. Okay, Iran is not viewed by Washington as an existential threat, but it is viewed by Israel as an existential threat. The U.S. views Iran as an ideological and regional threat. Israel sees a nuclear-armed Iran as potentially crippling Israel's strategic flexibility and eventually its survival. So, like for Israel, basically they think of it like if I can't get ahead now, I'm going to end up having to be behind, right? They would have. So in order for them to be able to maintain and achieve some kind of level of regional hegemony, I think they really want to cripple Iran's potential, right? Not just their nuclear potential, I think their military potential, their diplomatic potential, just cripple Iran. Okay, B, the U.S. dilemma, supporting and or stopping an Israeli strike. In chapter 5, they discuss whether it might be in the US's interest to encourage Israel to take on the burden of destroying Iran's nuclear facilities, a move that could achieve Washington's objectives while shifting the military, political, and diplomatic fallout onto Tel Aviv. They literally say to let Israel provoke Iran and then shield the U.S. from regional backlash, international criticism, and Iranian retaliation. So this is the plan laid out in chapter 5 of Which Path to Persia. What is the plan? The plan is get Israel just to do, and remember what happened when Israel struck right off the bat. What did they say? They were like, Donald Trump was like, Iran should not strike our stuff. Like they should not, because we had nothing to do with this, right? Right off the bat, they said that. So it's like they already knew, right? This is what I mean. Like, this is why people are obsessing over this paper. I could see why it went viral, because yeah, man, it's crazy that this is the freaking plan. This is one of the plans. Okay, basically here's more stuff from chapter 5. American strategic choices. The 4 lights. This chapter outlines 4 policy options regarding a potential Israeli strike. The green light is allow or explicitly support Israel in an Israeli strike, including overflight rights in U.S.-controlled Iraqi airspace. This is what we're doing. We went with the green light option, as described here, like right off the bat. Pros: Israel bears the burden. U.S. avoids direct involvement. They say it. It's no wonder that Donald Trump is basically making this stuff not public, or less public now, right? Because you can see, like, we're doing this. So if we're doing this up to now, I predict that we're going to follow this game plan just as far as we can, right? Sorry, I should let you get a word in. My bad.
No, I'm just listening to you here and reading it.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. This is kind of like my own retelling, and I have copy pasted it, have typed it, whatever. But okay, Israel bears the burden. No one, especially Iran, will believe the U.S. was uninvolved. Retaliation against U.S. troops and interests is guaranteed. Okay, yellow light. Quiet encouragement. Deny access to Iraqi airspace as deniability for Washington. Well, wouldn't it have been nice if we did that? Now imagine if we had gone with this plan, though, with the yellow light approach. It would have been, right now, they would have just been denying the fact that they had anything to do with it. It would have been just like right on the beginning when Israel was saying, when the United States was saying, don't hit our stuff, even though already, I think by then we already made the decision that we're going in, which is like another crazy thing to think about. What is this going to do to what remains of U.S. international credibility and diplomatic legitimacy? What is it going to do? It's going to put an absolute hatchet to it. Like, look what we did. Okay, so I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but like I heard Scott Ritter, and he would probably know stuff like this, saying like this actually qualifies as the definition of a war crime. Because if you're in the middle of, go ahead.
Well, I mean, nobody is on board with this. Like, nobody is on board with this. UK maybe, because they're just such unbelievable lapdogs. It's just unreal. But no other country in the world agrees with this. No other country in the world, besides Israel, of course, and the UK, but I don't think many others, if any, really believe that the US has any sort of right to do this, I don't believe anybody believes it was justified. And I believe that the overwhelming majority of the world is on the wrong side. And that's what you're going to see in the coming weeks and months. So you haven't done yourselves any favors, because all this will further do is just alienate the United States from the rest of the world. Like nobody wants to deal with you guys anymore. Just like we're just like fuck off. Like go off. You want to do your own thing, fine. You're all nuts. We don't want to deal with you. And this is just another shining example of why. So like this won't end well for you. It already hasn't. And further escalation is only going to show that you're isolated even more and more. And you won't beat Iran, not in their own backyard. You're just going to
Won't
get
beat
blown
Iran.
out of the sea.
Exactly.
You know,
So
not what in Persia? Nah, it can't happen.
yeah, but I think
Dude, you
they
go
can
to
do
war with
it. I
Iran,
think
you're
they're
not.
doing it.
Well, you're
Uh,
going to lose a whole lot of soldiers then,
this is what I'm
because
saying. So think
all
about the
your ships are going to
situation.
get blown up.
Think about the scenario that I'm proposing. Wait, okay, well, I don't like. I mean, obviously, I prefer to be wrong. Oh, if you could just share the screen. But yeah, I mean, I would be awesome if this is not what happens, obviously, right? But I think what's going to happen is the goal is regime change. Obviously, the goal is not to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuke, because Iran has put that on the negotiating table multiple times. And you know what we did? We negotiated with them while planning to do this strike all along. Literally, you know, we try to do a Pearl Harbor on them. Imagine that. And if you want to say, oh, Israel is the one that tried to do the Pearl Harbor on them, well, like, look, we have they explained at least their intentions, right? Okay, so this is like in lieu of an abstract. Here's a brief excerpt from the content. This is chapter 5, leaving it to Bibi. So I don't know why I can't just see the whole chapter. Oh, I have to buy the book. You can definitely find it for free online. Okay, Republic Iran has been in Anu for 30 years, sought to thwart U.S. policies in the Middle East, such as advancing Arab-Israeli peace process and creating stable regional security agreements. Like, listen to that. One of our intentions is to stop Arab-Israeli peace process. Seriously. Nice. Regional stability, responsible hegemon, world policeman. How do you like that?
Well, like I said, it's just another nail in the coffin, really, because, like I said, nobody wants to deal with you guys anymore. They don't want to do commerce with you, don't want to trade with you, don't want to visit your country,
But think about what that
don't want to.
means.
It means absolutely nothing. It just means that the rest of the world is just going to go off and do their own thing, which is what they are doing right now as we speak. So all it means is you're going to get more and more isolated. Your standard of living is going to get worse and worse, and
As we
your
discussed,
influence and power in the world.
your
Yeah.
gas prices are probably about to explode. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So, I
dude,
mean, you know, I look at all this stuff and I just shake my head. It's such a bipolar strategy, and I don't see what the payoff is for the United States at all. So, you know, that's something you guys got to sort out.
well,
Why
I'll tell you what the payoff is
seemingly
for the
Israel
United
has so
States.
much influence.
The payoff for the United States is they still haven't given up on project try to salvage global hegemony. Guys, the longer you do this, the more of a disaster it's going to end up being. But I guess it's like
Sure.
just like this Iran situation. They're on the escalations escalator, and it's being a process all on its own. So they're going. This is why I think. I mean, we wouldn't put troops on the ground if we could have done it all with a bombing campaign, and Iran had regime change right now and was surrendering. But seeing as Iran is going to resist and give anybody that tries to invade Iran a massive ass whooping, then you can see that we're going to have to. I mean, or we drop a nuke. I mean, or we have our soldiers on the ground there. They get surrounded. They're screwed, and instead of surrendering, then we drop a nuke. Anyway, crisis after crisis. This is another really important sentence. Crisis after crisis has arisen between Iran and the United States, but Iran has never been and almost certainly will never be an existential threat to the United States. It harbors no territorial designs on the United States, has never conducted a terrorist operation aimed at the American homeland. What do they say about Iran? The number one sponsor of terror? Right. This is what they actually know. This is what they say to each other. Like that's how much they're fucking with you. When they say Iran is the number one sponsor of state terror, state sponsor of terror, they know they're full of shit. Actually, the number one state sponsor of terror is probably either the CIA,
United States,
the US, or maybe Mossad. I could see that maybe. No, it has to be because Israel doesn't even have that kind of. But anyway, so it has never conducted a terrorist operation. Even should it acquire nuclear weapons, lacks the delivery systems to threaten the United States. Further, its economy is anemic, even if substantially reformed, will probably never provide the base for Iran to make itself a challenger to the United States on par with Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, Soviet Union, or Communist China. So, right, they're not a threat, obviously. Okay. For Israel, Iran is much more dangerous opponent. It is close and threatening. There is a virtual consensus in Israel that Iran cannot be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons. According to whom, right? First of all, Israel cannot be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons, but they did.
They already have nuclear weapons.
They have them, right? So, who are
well,
you?
And their arsenal is the only one in the world which is unchecked, right? Why is that allowed? You know what I mean? So, I think ultimately what'll happen is Iran will say, "Sure, we don't want nuclear weapons," and they've openly said that. But if you want us to denuclearize, Israel has to do so as well. Of course, Israel won't, and Iran will acquire a nuclear weapon, I would assume sometime within the next year.
No, that'll be it. Like that's one thing that we were both predicting is that now Iran is forced to acquire a nuclear weapon. They have no choice almost.
I don't know how you don't, right? Like when you've got idiots like Marco Rubio running around talking about how Iran should follow the Libya model, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a straight face, tells you everything
said that about
you
North
need
Korea. Was it John Bolton? Said that about North Korea?
This was Marco Rubio about Iran the other day. He was saying that Iran.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. Yeah, but we said that recently about freaking John Bolton also said that. It's just they're repeating the same thing. I think I think that I think this is the third time somebody's basically brought this up, and that everybody knows what the Libya model is. And Libya, that's why they love Libya so much, and they can't stop talking about it because it actually was a success of this shock and awe bullshit. But you're not going to get a Libya model with Iran because Iran is not Libya.
Yeah. And if you're the Ayatollah, you're thinking, oh, great, let me get fucking sodomized with a rusty pipe before you kill me. That sounds like a great plan, right?
It's not an accident.
People have no clue.
No, they bring it up. They do have a clue. They bring it up because that's what they mean. What they mean by the Libya model is full victory. We win, you lose. You don't save anything. You get nothing. It's like Richard Nixon said, I'm ready to compromise when my neck is on when your boot is on your neck, right? Like that's what they mean by the Libya model. By the Libya model, they mean that you are going to be fully, completely put down, but they're not going to do that. And if they're saying that they want to do this, first of all, they don't have the proxy army to do this, right? Go ahead.
If I'm Venezuela, if I'm Cuba, if I'm Bolivia, if I'm really any country in the world, I'd be smart to get me some nuclear weapons right about now. That's what I'm thinking. Why not? Right? When you've got these rogues going around threatening you, like mobsters trying to shake you down, that's exactly what Iran needs is nuclear weapons. That's the solution.
What if here's the why not? Maybe the why not is that okay. Maybe either Iran. I think Iran probably has to get nuclear weapons, and they are going to now. So, like we said, they're in a position where they have to do that. I think maybe what they're doing is with waiting to develop it all this time, maybe it's been them goading us into doing this suicidal thing, because Iran will make Vietnam probably look wonderful by comparison, like a success. I think if we get stuck in Iran, we are going to be absolutely. So I think, what if Iran doesn't mind that? What if Iran's like, yes, sure, go ahead and attack us? What if this is what's going on with Iran's air defenses? Okay, conspiracy theory time here. But what if this, like, everybody's like, what's happening to Iran's air defenses? Maybe they're saving them. Maybe they're like, go ahead, bomb freaking Naftan or whatever it is, right? No, you guys will not be able to do anything. Like, we've moved the material, or we've moved the equipment. I don't know, whatever it is, right? They're like, go ahead, strike this, or you won't be able to penetrate our awesome reinforced concrete, whatever. Or the way the bunkers are designed are also designed to withstand bunker busting munitions as well. So go ahead, drop those. You're going to do barely any damage, right? But we're going to save our forces for when it's going to be the situation that they pretended that happened in Ukraine early on, with the airplane full of paratroopers going down. Imagine that. Imagine an airplane full of Israeli troopers going down. What if they save their firepower to this until they see the whites in their eyes or something like this? You know what I mean?
Well, I agree with you. I think Iran, for more or less, they allowed the Americans to bomb those sites because they knew that they had to let that happen, if that makes sense. Like, you kind of need to let one side attack in order for you to justify what you do next. And they probably knew that there was nothing down there anyway, and they probably knew that they'd never be able to hit it because, whatever American intelligence thinks is down there, they don't know, right? Like, if they're saying it's 200 feet down, it's probably 6. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't know. So I think, they were given that as somewhat of a freebie in order to, be able to use the narrative moving forward that it's
Build an
self-defense.
alibi for the narrative that
Yeah.
we are.
So now what we're seeing is Iran is just going to continue to attack Israel. And they attacked the bases in the American bases in various
500
countries
rockets today.
and that'll be it. So they won't attack America anymore. But with that said, if America tries to attack Iran, they will defend themselves. With Israel,
why then would you start the war if you were ready to be reasonable at this juncture? If this is what I'm saying, if they haven't climbed off the escalator at this point, number one, okay, maybe this is it, or maybe another step further, right? If they could really,
are you talking about the U.S.?
Yes, if they could really demonstrate that they really are, that they really did do significant, substantial damage or something like this as a face-saving thing. Okay, maybe, but I think the longer, like literally every hour that we are recording this, even, it's harder and harder to get off the escalator. And the only way that I can say that it makes sense is they want to escalate. They're going up this escalator on purpose. They're idiots. They think they're going to win the war. They really think they're going to enact regime change in Iran. They think Iran is Syria. Disaster. We're already going, like, it's already virtually guaranteed by now that we're already going to be feeling serious economic side effects of this bullshit decision. There were I guess I should take a look at the protests. I don't know if you've seen this, like New York, LA. See, and what if this is what the protests were about? Let's see, anti-war protests. What if this is what all of those bullshit protests were about in the beginning? Like remember, like in California and stuff, with like the Mexican flags and shit like that. They're just trying to like get ready for this, right? Like, get everybody. I don't want to say test run.
Honestly, man, any protests that go on in America, It's just
It
such an
makes a
empty place.
difference to an extent, because
Sure, it
remember
makes it,
how hard
no,
they
let me
cracked
finish.
down.
Let me finish. It makes a difference, yes, but in your country where everybody is so fucking empty, right? I don't see this as being a true anti-war protest. I think that these protests are being organized by the Democrats because they finally, after about 6 months of failing at everything that they've thrown at Donald Trump, this is actually getting traction. But interestingly enough, it's not getting traction with the Democrats. It's getting more traction with the MAGA folks because the Democrats, they're all warmongering fucking crazy people, which, was evidenced by the last bunch. So I think that the Democrats are rightfully
I
rallying
mean, listen
around
to
this war
Lindsey
issue,
Graham.
right?
The Republicans are crazy warmongering people too. They're the ones
But
that
what I
matter, the
mean is,
ones that get to
I
steer.
don't believe that these anti-war protests are organic. I don't believe they're genuine. Is what I'm saying. I think they're a Democratic Party op to try to get some support back, and they'll be successful at it too because war is not popular. My
Yeah,
problem with this whole thing is the
but
people organizing it
they're
are a bunch of scumbags.
if so, then they're co-opting and trying to steer a genuine social mood, genuine zeitgeist in the nation, right? Because everybody's pissed off at Donald Trump right now for doing this. People are pissed at him. Maybe okay. There's
Yeah,
some Trump supporters that are uh, still don't know and don't care about anything, right? And they really believe still whatever it is that Trump is saying. But um, a lot of people are pissed off about this. They're literally saying this is not, and like not just that, but think about a lot of alternative press, not even just alternative press, even legacy press has even done some pushback, even though I think it's BS because legacy press is about part of the war machine.
but
So there's
again,
no
it's but again, it's not genuine, and that's my problem with it all. The legacy press is covering their stories not because they're anti-war, they're anti-Trump. If this was Biden doing the same thing, they would be cheerleading it on. And that's what sickens me about the mainstream media and the
good point.
Democratic Party.
That's a very good point. Iran targeted U.S. military base in Qatar on Monday in response to U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities days earlier as tensions soared over potential for a spiraling Middle East conflict. And what did we read? We read that, where is it? That we don't care about maintaining peace in the region, right? Of course, conflicts are going to soar. This is the intention. Okay. Israel will not tolerate nuclear weapons, blah, 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 blah. In his first speech, Bibi Netanyahu said, to the Knesset, he said that we cannot afford to take lightly megalomaniac tyrants who threaten to annihilate us. Yeah, that sounds like Bibi. Not only is he threatening to annihilate Israel, but also, like the rest of the world. Other Israeli leaders are more reasoned, but are determined to prevent Iranian acquisition of a nuclear weapons capability. All right. So the success of Iranian-backed terrorist groups in Lebanon, Hamas, have only added to Israel's concern. Even relatively dovish analysts like historian Benny Morris, I'm not probably, if I saw maybe like, oh, I'm not really super familiar, write about Iranian bomb in apocalyptic terms. The Iranians are driven by a higher logic, and they will launch their rockets. As with the first Holocaust, the international community will do nothing. It will be all over for Israel in a few minutes. This is supposedly a dovish analyst. Okay. That guy is either a fool or stupid on purpose. He's either stupid on accident, in which case he's just an idiot, or he's stupid on purpose, in which case he's lying to you. When the world had 5 long years in which to wring its hands and do nothing, only a few Israeli commentators have suggested. Okay. Oh, right. So he's going to say basically, yeah. Few Israeli commentators suggested that actually serves Israeli interests to have a threat from Iran. Mossad chief Ephraim Halevi argues that Ahmadinejad is our greatest gift. We couldn't carry out a better operation in the Mossad than to put a guy like Ahmadinejad in power in Iran. But even Halevi believes Iran is a serious threat to Israel's interest. It is clear from discussions with Israeli military intelligence officials, from numerous press leaks and reports, that Israel is well underway in planning a military operation to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. See, like, they're already in the process of doing it. Why don't we just kind of, this is kind of how they spin it in the actual papers, like, well, we could just kind of, that's why they have the green light, red light thing, right? Because it's almost like at that point in time, you're like complicit. You know what they're planning. You're implying that you're not doing anything. This is public knowledge. What do you think? Israel hasn't read this policy paper? We're reading it right now. Israel's defense minister Ehud Barak said in 2007 that the things that we do behind the scenes, far from the public eye, are far more important than the slogan charade. And we all are super familiar with this crazy slogan charade. So think about it. He's saying the slogan charade is the tip of the iceberg, implying that Israeli covert capabilities are already hard at work trying to cope with the Iranian threat and preparing to attack if they must. It is impossible to know what those plans entail in detail without access to IDF secret planning, but Israelis say the mission is not impossible. Well, we know now that they failed this mission. The IDF September 6, 2007 attack on the Syrian nuclear facility at Deir ez-Zor is widely believed in Israel to have been in part a message to Tehran that Israel may be next. But anyway, yeah, so this is kind of like basically when you're saying, like, I think that they have to go into Iran. Just reading that policy paper, because otherwise,
how they can. Like, logistically, I don't know how they can. Like, they would need months just to stage an operation like that. And Iran is not going to give them the time and the space to stage an operation like that.
They stopped the fight with the Houthis. Remember how they stopped the fight with Afghanistan? Turned tail and ran.
But the Houthis,
in order to have a fight with Russia?
Right.
Well, I think they stopped the fight with the Houthis because they know that they needed those standoff weapons that they were wasting in great numbers for the fight with Iran. Like, this is the opening salvos of all this stuff is going to be mostly standoff stuff. Okay, fine. They got those B2s in.
Yeah. But the Houthis are back involved now.
Or what?
Right. The Houthis are back involved now.
Yeah, they say they'll be hitting American stuff, but I think that's to be expected. What did we expect that would not happen? So I think, but think about this. Look how stretched I
don't know. I don't know how they stage it. Like, how are you going to stage? You'd need 1 million soldiers.
Okay, so you just start with terrorist groups, like on the ground terrorist groups and stuff, and then you have advisors and special forces on the ground.
But none of that'll work. What you're saying is
steal it out.
No, but none of that'll work. What you're saying is, for regime change, you need to take over the whole country. So you need to.
But otherwise, what are you doing with this then? Tell me then. Explain the events thus far. Like,
you're asking me to explain the logic of your government? No. I fucking don't know.
Well, I'm telling you,
I have no clue.
This is my interpretation. My interpretation is remember we said this right when Donald Trump got elected. He's going to back off from Ukraine and he's going to focus on the Middle East. I said that more than once, right? And this is exactly what he's doing, exactly what is playing out. And he's going to he's not going to stop focusing on Ukraine, try to dump Ukraine to the Europeans, and then, do a loop-de-loop back to the Middle East if he doesn't intend to get some kind of results. The whole problem is like Ukraine isn't working out. They're going to lose Ukraine. So where is it that, I remember saying this when Donald Trump got elected, where is it that they have some success? And it's in the Middle East, because right around that time, Syria happened. Right around that time, what else? Hezbollah in Lebanon was severely crippled as well. But anyway, I'm trying to think. Was that already then? I'm terrible with figuring my dates and stuff. I'm awful about this shit. But anyway, so you know what I mean? Like, I think that we thought that, yeah, they were definitely already fighting in Gaza, and they were definitely already fighting in Lebanon. So they thought they had some kind of measure of success there. But what they didn't realize is that, think about Syria. Technically, you weakened Syria for 14 years. There was a 10-year civil war. And then after that, there was a long sanctions and constant terrorism operations regime on Bashar al-Assad. And they still had to wait for Russia to be distracted, which makes me think even more like Iran. Did they drop Syria? Because I don't think they would be able to be doing this right now without Syria. Syria was still, but I mean, then they would have gone full force like this onto Syria. Think about this.
Well,
what if that's why Syrian soldiers quit? Syrian generals just quit because they took a look at this and they're like, oh, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to absorb that. That's going to happen. Let's just get out of the way, and Iran's going to absorb that.
Well, I think though there's a big difference between Syria and Iran.
Yes. On top of that,
see,
there's yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, everything that I see is the people in Iran seem to be almost overwhelmingly supportive of their government, and they seem to be very angry right now. And if anything, all this has done has solidified the people in that country against Israel, against America. So I don't think they've done themselves any favors, and it'll be another L. It'll be another costly quagmire. I don't agree with you. I don't think the U.S. is going to go into Iran at all. I think even
you think no boots on the ground at all?
No, God, no. No, God, no.
I really hope so, man. I hope you're right.
I think that they tried to bomb this site, and as soon as they did it, and they realized they were unsuccessful, they said, "Oh, diplomacy, diplomacy, diplomacy." So I think Trump has created yet another shit show for himself by making really bad decisions, and he's made some doozies since he's been president so far. This is probably the worst. I think that Iran will keep fighting with Israel, and I think that Israel doesn't have much left, and I don't think the U.S. has much left either. So for Iran, they can lob these things all day, all night. Doesn't matter. They've got tens of thousands of these rockets. So for them, all it does is further weaken the arsenal of America and Israel. It doesn't seem like, yeah, sure. I mean, the Israelis are hitting stuff, the Iranians are hitting stuff. They can do tit for tat forever. The only difference is the Israelis aren't used to getting hit. So for them, if you look at some of the footage that we've seen the last week or so of the strikes that are going on in places like Haifa and Tel Aviv, they haven't been hit like that in their history. So for them, this is something new.
Yeah,
and
but
they don't like it.
Yeah, the Israelis don't like it, but see, if I'm right, and we look at what that policy paper was saying, right? It was saying that the whole point is to put Israel under the bus. For our plan, we have this plan, and we'd love to. One of the such scenarios of enacting the plan is leave it to Bibi, throw him under the bus. Literally, chapter 5 of this document.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think that's what we're doing. And the Israelis are suffering now. Yeah, it hurts when you get freaking punched, when you get freaking whacked by your bigger neighbor that is stronger than you. And there's only so much, as we can see from the Ukraine war, that your propaganda battle is going to do. Like, I don't know. It's the early days of the war. I don't know who to believe. Like, everybody's doing war propaganda. That's how it is. But you're not going to tell me that Israel has completely knocked out Iran, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or whatever is in disarray and Iran is incapable of fighting back. You can't tell me that, right? And if
we don't
Iran
have the
feigns
appetite for it.
weakness, if Iran
We
feigns
don't
weakness, okay, we don't have the appetite for it. We don't have the appetite for Ukraine, though.
we don't
Okay,
have the appetite for any war, and we haven't for 100 years, right? Like
and how's that gone for us?
Well, we haven't really fought in any wars since World War One, when you think about it. Like, you know, and even that, we didn't have a whole lot of involvement. And by we, I mean Canada and the US, right? And if you look at World War II, we didn't lose a whole lot of troops. You look at Vietnam, you guys didn't lose a whole lot of troops. You like,
Yeah.
I remember the Iraq 2003 war. What'd you lose? Like 5,500 troops? And people were freaking out over 5,000 troops lost. You know, that's like,
Well,
that's a week in Ukraine, you know? So there's no stomach for this. There's no stomach for this. And, you know, same with Israel. People are going to want to get out of Israel if this keeps up.
it's
They're
already
already
happening.
trying to get out. Yeah. So, you know, we don't have the
So-
stomach for this kind of stuff.
Look at this classic underestimating our enemies, like always, right? We did it with the Russians, we're doing it with the Iranians. Because the Iranian regime is widely disliked by many Iranians, the most obvious and palatable method of bringing about his demise would be to help foster a popular revolution along the lines of the Velvet Revolutions that toppled many communist governments in Eastern Europe.
And that's the thing. Like, where do they get this information from? Because, like any government,
Doing
in the
this
world,
is the one thing you can do to make them united behind this government, even if they did hate it, even if you were somewhat right.
Exactly. Every government in the world is going to be hated by a certain population of their people, right? Goes without saying. Doesn't matter which government. Every single government is going to have people who, you know, protest and don't like what their government does. That's inevitable. But for them to say that, you know, disliked by many, yeah, how many? Where are you getting this information from? What stats do you have? This is just it's not real, right? This is just whoever wrote this article smoked this up. They've got nothing behind it, and that's why the people who write these policies, and these policies never succeed, because the people writing it are out to lunch, right? And that's clear. Like, you can look in Tehran right now, and there's like 1 million people out on the streets, right, protesting for their government.
You say they never succeed. I think they have their own, like, it's hubris. They succeeded with Syria. After failing with Syria all this time, right? They succeeded with Syria. So this is why I think that I was like saying
Syria
earlier,
wasn't really Syria wasn't a color revolution, though. Syria was a military invasion where the army just didn't fight back. That's different. The people in Syria didn't overthrow Assad, right?
But the military fled. They got this sort of decapitation sort of thing going, and they were able to get it with their proxy.
My point is the people didn't want Al-Jolani in there, and they still don't want Al-Jolani in there. And that's why it's such a clusterfuck over there now. So that's not a revolution. That's just a bunch of terrorists coming over and cooing a government, right? That's much different. Now, you can argue that there have been successful cover revolutions that have been supported by the CIA. Yes, that's happened many times in history, but not a country the size and scope and history of Iran. Like, this is a 5,000-year-old culture, right? This is not some banana republic somewhere. And this is what these stupid people don't seem to get.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Iran is a civilization. Like,
bingo.
You know,
I think you're hitting the nail on the head right now. Continue.
Well, that's all I had to say. That's like when you think about when they talk about breaking up Russia. Russia's been dealing with this stuff for 1,000 years. You think they haven't figured it out by now? Do you honestly think that they haven't figured out how to manage their federation and all the various ethnic groups that are in Russia that they've been dealing with for the last 1,000 years. They've got it figured out. Same with China,
Or
same
how
with
to
Persia,
maintain an army to fight a
Yeah.
war. Like
But,
they
you have,
underestimated their enemies, and look, they're underestimating them again, even in a way that even you are saying, like, listen, even if, like we were both saying, even if you're right, you're going to completely undermine your position. So, okay.
well, I lived through all this shit, man. Like when I was a kid, we used to hear about how all the Soviets, all they wanted was a pair of Levi's. If they could just get a pair of Levi's jeans. Seriously, this was the narrative. It was insane.
Well,
They just want Levi's and
I could
Beatles
light
tapes,
I can
you know?
shine some light on that. What they're basically were saying is like, here's what we've done. We've gone ahead of the cultural stuff in terms of what's cool, and in terms of like what kinds of things that you can purchase on like that were goods that were made in the West that weren't even made in the Soviet Union. Like chewing gum was really cool. Like records, especially kind of like band records, and it just you basically created a uh, a market and an environment for people to do this kind of underground good stuff because there was a lot of stuff that was for sale on the underground that was stuff like this, right? So yeah, it's not that when they were saying that, basically what they're saying is that like we have the power to like reach all the way into there with our cultural stuff. So yeah, it's not that the Russians were ready to get rid of nukes because they wanted Levi's, but it was that enough Russians were really did want Levi's and really did want to listen to rock and roll and really did believe that this is going to bring democracy and freedom, and we're just going to have Levi's and rock and roll here. So that there's I think that it's like they say, you know, like the winner of the last war always prepares to fight the last war all over again because it's what worked last time, and like the loser of the last war is the one that has in a position to have to learn. I don't know, but we seem to not learn. We keep underestimating people. See, with Iran, I think that, like I was saying, I think we've just gotten to the point where we're running out of time. They probably would have loved to have more time to do more stuff. But if this is the case, then they have to go hard and they have to go forward. And they can't just be invading Iran right now. But if my prediction is they're going to crank it up. They're going to continue to crank it up, and they're going to try to. Without troops on the ground, you're not going to accomplish anything. At this, you might as well just surrender right now and say, okay, we were not able to affect regime change and bomb well, I mean, maybe they still are huffing their own propaganda and do think that they're going to do this. But anyway,
I don't know. I think, man, it's inevitable that Iran will acquire nuclear warheads now, and that'll just be the end of it. Right? I don't understand why the US would do this at this point when they were negotiating with the Iranians, and the Iranians were speaking favorably to the negotiations in public. Like they were saying that progress was being made. They were saying that, they were optimistic for a deal.
But it makes
maybe
sense
I just
now.
answered my own question. Like maybe that's why they did it, is because of that very reason, is why they ended up doing what they did, because they don't. In the end, they never really wanted a deal, and I think maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, I think Iran probably knew that, and that's why Iran totally played along with the whole diplomatic game really hard. That's why they're, even as they're being bombed, they're making a point of coming out there and saying, we are negotiating the no nukes away. We are not developing a nuke, even right now, right? Why is he saying that? Because what did J.D. Vance come out and say today about this nuclear issue? We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with their nuclear program. Oh, mission accomplished. Why don't we just go home then at this point? Because it's more than that. We're doing something more.
Well, and I also think they're panicking because they don't know what to do next, as usual. And the bombs never worked, apparently, on the main site, the Fordo, whatever it's called. And
Fort Howe or something.
Yeah, so I think that they realized that they took their shot. It didn't work. And all they can do now is hopefully pressure Iran into some sort of denuclearization deal. Because, like I said, if I'm Iran, I'd be like, okay, well, enough time for talking's over. Where are those missile parts? Let's see what we can Frankenstein up here now. That's exactly what I would be doing. No
So I'm
question
going to
about it.
keep an eye out then for these off ramps that people try to take, because my previous passage, what? Very weak. Trump mocks Iran's failed retaliatory attack. I
All
actually
right,
met this
cool.
dude in person one time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. He told me I should do news. Okay, so I was like, he told me I should. He asked me about Obama or something, and I was just like, yeah, Obama is. I said something like he's basically a right winger, like he's I something like I wouldn't vote for him. He's too right wing for me. Anyway, and he was like, you should do news. It was like maybe he was like,
I
in the
don't know who he
future.
is.
Jesse Waters is
uh,
super famous. He's Fox's big dude now since Bill O'Reilly
uh,
had the sex
I
scandal. So you know who
I
Bill
haven't watched
O'Reilly is,
cable.
right?
Yeah, I remember Bill O'Reilly,
Okay,
but
this is
I
Bill
haven't watched
O'Reilly's
TV news.
protege.
Okay, cool.
Anyway,
All right,
so
you want to two scoops
very
it?
weak. Oh, hold up. Donald Trump gave peace a chance. So we already know what Fox is going to be saying. Fox is going to be on the side of go to war with Iran, right?
Sure. I'm not hearing anything.
Oh shoot! Here, I can do this. 1 second. Copy. Yep. 1 second. In order for you to hear, I have to stop sharing the screen and then start sharing it one more time. One bad. Here we go. And then share it again. Where's present? I think this is the one.
There will be a damage assessment. No one knows the extent of the damage. It looks pretty devastating. You don't know if they squirreled away any enriched uranium and they're just spinning something on the fly now. Nobody knows. And no one knows, as you're right, you know, you could have a revenge attack in a year from now. Nobody knows. But so
Are you hearing
far,
it?
oil prices are down. The market was up.
None yet?
It's contained at this point. So well
Yeah.
done.
All right.
You hear
Harold
it?
Ford Jr.,
Okay.
the one development today was this attack by the Iranians, which looks, as the president said, weak and might be the last one because it's similar to what they did after
See,
Soleimani.
he says
Right?
last
They
one.
had a response, but they told all the people in Iran it was an amazing response. We all know that's not true. People inside don't. But what do you think?
Well, good to be back with everybody. What a weekend.
So you missed
I believe
some
Joey
important
is
stuff.
largely right, if not totally right, in one regard. Our
But
men and women
basically,
are ready
it's
to go to
it's
war.
a
They
little bit,
understand what the implications are.
little bit like
Jesse,
kind of
you're
looking
right.
like what
This
you were
notion
saying.
that our
where it
military
looks like
somehow or
kind of
another had
trying to
been
back
weakened
off, but
over the last 6 months to 3 years. A lot of that was refuted. What the military did in terms of the demonstrating their capabilities, the choreography of what they did, the planning, and obviously the president himself orchestrating from all press reports an unbelievable deception within deception was nothing short of astonishing.
yeah.
We're now at a
What
time
did
we got to
Putin
figure
call
out how
the
we
US the
de-escalate.
empire
And I
of
think where the
lies?
president his
Deception
definition of
within
de-escalation is bringing them to the table to try to
deception.
ensure
I would call it a
the
sneak
weapons
attack
capability has
personally.
been removed.
Yeah, or
A
a sucker punch.
disingenuous sneak attack.
Yeah, like or cowardly backstab, maybe.
We should be
And
prepared
that's
to wait
why,
to
like I said,
understand. In other
the
words, we have
world's
to put
done with
human assets
America.
on the ground to
Absolutely done.
But I
Completely
mean,
done.
Fox News, we expect them to be. Yeah, dude, we've
we have a
basically
segment
cooked our
on this.
goose in terms of.
Who are invested in.
In which case, I think why they have to go full forward. They think about what they've already invested. Think about what they've already invested diplomatically, reputationally, already at this point in time. And so, if Iran is, Iran could be in a situation where they could be trying to
And I
actually
think
provoke
the thing
us.
for me that
They
is
might be
most
they
concerning
might
as we
be
sit here
totally
today is,
down. They might want
are
to
we
have this
talking
fight.
about regime
Like,
change, or are we satisfied with
as long
where
as
we are
there's no
now,
nukes involved,
determining if
we
we
can't
were able
win,
to
and they're
remove
going to
this
look like the
capability?
winners. And think about what
And I
is
guess
going to
over the
happen
next
to
few
their
weeks, we'll be able
regional
to have this
prestige and their
conversation.
regional
It's
power.
hard to know,
But
Caleb,
okay,
because
I
it's
guess let me
300
I
feet
guess
below.
let's get ready to do two scoops.
Alrighty.
Even
Well,
though I kind of
I
want to.
predict there won't be an invasion. I just don't think, to use Donald Trump's words, I don't think America has the courage. So I think this will be it. And I think that they'll continue to hit Israel. And I think Israel's in a world of hurt because, again, they just don't have the arsenal. And the arsenal that they have is very expensive and they don't have a whole lot of it. So,
And we can't supply them even if we wanted to. We can't supply Ukraine if we wanted to. We can't supply Israel either.
well, where was it? I read somewhere, or heard somewhere that the THAAD missile system, they produce like 90 interceptors a year.
Are you serious? I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah,
90 a
90
year. What do you suppose
interceptors.
the surge capacity on that is?
Yeah,
100 a year? 120?
yeah,
They were
that's
really,
like
really
a
cranking
couple
them out?
volleys. So
Yeah, exactly. Enough for one Iranian missile strike. That's crazy. Not even an entire year's worth of rockets would not be enough for one Iranian missile strike. Even if you didn't shoot off two rockets at once. This is why we were discussing this on DPA forum, right, on the chat, where what the future of air defense is. They can't be this. Like, we can't be shooting down $30,000 drone with $1 million rocket or $9 million rocket in the case of THAAD or whatever it is. It's just simply never going to work out. Not even just if you could make a rocket super cheap, just the concept of shooting a rocket propelled explosive warhead into the sky to try to calculate a possibly not even ballistic trajectory anymore at this day and age. It's not the way. Like, they have to, already we look at something like the Pantsir. They have tremendous success with having the point defenses as well as the rockets. So look at what the Russians do with drones, which is kind of a little bit of a microcosm of that very problem. They use shotguns. So I think why haven't flat cannons made a comeback yet? Like, okay, you can't predict where a hypersonic rocket is going to go and stuff, but you could probably predict, like, think about all the videos that we saw of hypersonic rocket hitting Patriot battery. Every single rocket goes off in the Patriot battery and the rocket still goes in and hits the launcher. Okay, I submit that you could have probably guessed within reason in where in space-time that rocket would have been. Probably, right? It's probably going for the freaking launcher or for the radar or something. You use a flat cannon. Why haven't, like, cover the sky with massive shotgun? Like, I feel like that has to be seems like a common sense solution. I mean, obviously, there's got to be some kind of problem with it because other people would have thought of it. But I mean, it's kind of like literally what they're doing with battlefield adaptations for these situations. So there's a way that humanity has solved this problem for centuries. We've used shotguns.
Yeah, I agree. They got to figure out something. And like you said, some sort of big ass flat cannon seems
Create a minefield in the sky. It's a weaving and dodging rocket. Well, it might run into your freaking cloud of flak. Who knows? Maybe you don't even have to, it doesn't even have to explode at those speeds. Maybe you don't even have to, you can just have a sufficient obstacle in the air that'll completely screw it up. I have no idea, right? Maybe not. But who knows?
Well,
anyway.
I think the coming week, given that Iran has had their response to it now, and similar to when Soleimani was killed, they threw a couple rockets just to say that they did, and that was about it. I can't see Iran doing much more than this at this point.
That's
but like I said,
scenario.
I think the message will certainly be, we'll defend ourselves next time. So I guess we'll see if that message is heeded by the US. But I think in the meantime, it'll just be they'll continue to, trade with Israel.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope so. That's, I think, the best case scenario. And then they wind it down.
I think
But-
so. But I think that the whole nuclear agreement is going to be a tricky one because, like I said, if I'm Iran, my decision is now made. Develop that bomb as soon as possible.
But they keep
But
saying
I-
that they're not. But they almost think about this, like if the scenario happens where there are boots on the ground, Iran has to develop a nuke. Like if there are boots on the ground in any capacity, Israeli, okay, not any capacity. If it's Israeli, NATO, US, Qatar, whatever, something like this. If it's like in foreign invasion force boots on the ground, okay, in that situation, not just like small terrorist groups here and there, then in that case, in that situation, things are going to escalate to the point where the nuclear question is going to be involved. Because, like I was saying, there's no way that we're going to win a war with Iran if there are boots on the ground. They're going to be Debaltsevo/Ilovaisk. So if you guys remember Debaltsevo and Ilovaisk, they were the two battles where in the Ukraine war where the Ukrainian army, the AFU, got surrounded by the separatists, aided. I don't know if it was like openly that they were aided by the Russians or that they were, but like, or if that's just my impression. Like I think that they almost certainly were, but I don't know. I don't know how controversial it is. But okay, so aided by the Russians, I would say they ended up circling these massive Ukrainian forces, and that's how we got Minsk and then Minsk 2. And in our situation, I don't think we could do that. Imagine a massive 5,000 American troops surrounded and they can't get out, and Ukraine and Iran says, sign this agreement from a position of weakness. This is exactly where, like I was saying, we could try to resort to nukes, or in which case Iran would have to have a nuke to be able to say, like, don't you dare nuke us. Don't you dare even use a tactical nuke. Or maybe if like we try to do a demonstration tactical nuke, they could do like an underground, like a nuclear test, right? Definitively prove that they have the thing. And they say that Iran can't hit the United States. I don't know about all that. Iran has hypersonic rockets. I'm pretty sure Iran can hit the United States. I mean, I ain't no rocket surgeon, but
I don't think they can, but like I don't think that they have, like, keep in mind, and this is another reason why this conflict is so silly, because you got these two countries who are so far away from each other. They're about as far away from each other as you can possibly get, right? So it just goes to show how unthreatening they are to each other and how this is such a bunch of nonsense when you think about it, pragmatically, and say, US has no reason to be over there and Iran has no reason to be over here, so
except for the reason why we're trying to do this whole thing in the first place. This is what I'm saying. They're crazy. They're still trying to do Project Regional Hegemony. They're
sure,
still doing that.
But we both know that that's going to end really quickly because they just don't have the resources to do all this stuff. And and forget about the political will, forget about the opposition, all that. They just don't have the resources, right? Like you're talking about putting troops on the ground. Where are you going to get the troops from? Like, I don't know. Like, where? I think right now, last I heard.
You see why I'm worried. You see why I'm concerned. This is never going to end well, but I don't know. I really hope that this is what we're seeing. But we've seen this 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation before, where literally that's how the whole war started, with the United States trying to do their, diplomacy tricks, deception within deception. I guess they the deception within deception probably also refers to the fact that they flew the bombers from the United States and circled back, and then they had, I don't remember how many B-2s come from like much closer, I think from the south, and I should have a graphic ready, but I think that you were trying to wind up, so
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be a little early today.
All right, let's go.
I mean, I have a lot more to
on this
say,
uranium point.
Couldn't even take it anywhere
but
else.
Yeah, shit the way they do that.
Tell me about it. 2.5 grand later, and then. Hey, what's going on?
It's mine, Daddy. Noah keeps taking away from me.
Noah, give it back.
No.
Noah, give it back.
No.
I said give it back now. Noah! Larry, what the hell are you doing?
Larry!
Larry, you can't just. Oh,
Larry! Oh, are you all right? How did...
Larry!
Righto, what's going on here?
Sir, I'm arrested. Oh.
where did you find this?
The Slap, Part 2, coming soon to Foxtel. Ow! What the?
All right, I got
my
one
gosh,
more.
dude. Oh my gosh, I love that. Can we play that one more time? Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Where did you find this?
X, I think.
God, dude.
Okay, it won't replay. I'll send it to you.
Everything. Who cares? I gotta find this. This is hilarious. I have to share this to everybody.
This one
The
is not so
slap
funny.
part. That was excellent. It was pretty accurate, dude.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Iraq. I don't care if I ever come back. I don't care if I ever come back. From poor families, how far we roam. From poor families, how far we roam. So the rich kids can just stay at home. So the rich kids can just stay at home. When I come home with PTSD. When I come home with PTSD. The VA hospital won't care for me. The VA hospital won't care for me. I'll probably end up homeless out in the dark. I'll probably end up homeless out in the dark. To get played on screen by Marky Mark.
Oh yeah, the actually accurate way that we actually treat our veterans, which is a disaster and a disgrace and a national shame. Of like I'm greatly ashamed for how we've mistreated veterans in our country. After pulling crap like this, who wants to fight for you guys? And this is not even a joke what he's saying about the VA. I know people that it's basically not even worth it for them to even try to get help from the VA. So yeah, I mean that's a classic. It's a good skit. It's funny, but it's also like bittersweet because it's very true, I think. But okay, I guess that is our episode 25 of Hell in a Handbasket. I thought you would have thought I would have remembered 25, but okay.
It's going to be a long week, folks. So hopefully
it's gonna be a short week for me, dude. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm just gonna be full of eating popcorn, watching the world go to hell in a handbasket. It's pretty exciting.
There you go. All right. Cheers. Peace.